we are going to grab this stream link. I'm going to send it to myself. Whoops. And we're going to post it to the dashboard. Don't need that file. So today we are doing CMA training. And then let's get to the link. We are live. Post the link there. And then I said you're welcome to this person. You're welcome. Exclamation point. And smiley face. And then we're going to go to my email here and pull up the chat on my phone. So yes, as we do the class today, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them in the YouTube chat. I won't be monitoring my text messages. I did get a text message question yesterday, which I responded to after. I don't recall what it was. Let's see if I can find it real quick. There was a question about the open house class yesterday. Oh, do we ever have signs or flags stolen? Was the question. And the answer is no. I never did. I had balloons stolen, but I never had flags or signs stolen. And I think we had like one instance that I can remember where somebody did get a sign stolen. It was one sign. So it's very, very rare occurrence, to be certain. All right, so to my email, I already did that. So let me go back to there. It's got to be in the YouTube app. Yeah, it is in the YouTube app. Okay, so let me just get back to where I was, and then we'll get going here. Okay, I'll say hello to the chat. Hello, chat. And then I'll put the phone there so I can see the chat. And now we're ready to get going. So yes, today we are doing CMA training, and this is a very much of a learn the process. So there's a little bit of structure when it comes to the methodology that we're using to gather our data. There's certainly some real estate considerations. There's data there where you have to where your knowledge as a real estate agent certainly comes into play. But the majority of this class is where do I click and what do I put where and how do I do it? So it's very much of a process class. So in this class, like all classes, I recommend that you do not try and actually do what I'm showing you as I'm showing it to you. You'll be far better off if you just watch. So just focus on what I'm doing and try to just track along. Because turn the volume off on the phone, because I'm going to go here to the Resources tab. So here in Atova Central, I'm going to go to the Resources tab, and then right here, top center, we have the Comparative Market Analysis section. Everything that I am going to show you in the class today is going to be recapped for you in this document here, CMA instructions. And it says 2018 because they're always changing Paragon, and so we update the instructions so that they're current, or at least I did this year. And so we'll open up this document, and what you'll see here is we have the process like every single mouse click. So everything that I show you today is going to be accounted for here. So technically, if you wanted to, you could really almost skip the class and just follow every single step-by-step instruction here, because you really have, you know, click the search button. This will bring up the spreadsheet view. About 1.5 inches below the MLS logo, you'll see the button called Checked. 5 buttons to the right is a button called Export. Single left click on Export and a pull-down menu will appear. So you get the point, right? It's a very, very click-by-click set of instructions. So knowing that you have A, this video to refer back to, and B, that instruction set, the only thing you need to worry about for today is simply getting a feel for the flow. If you kind of watch and get a feel for how it works, then congratulations, mission accomplished. That's exactly for what this class is supposed to do. So this class does not get you from, I don't know how to do a CMA, to, oh, okay, I know how to do a CMA now. That is not what you're going to get from this class. What you're going to get from this class is a general feel for how it works. Then what you're going to do is try to actually do a CMA. So you'll follow that instruction set, perhaps refer back to the video, and in so doing, you'll hopefully be able to work through the process of creating a CMA on your own. If you're able to do that using those two resources, wonderful. If you're not, don't stress out about it. There's you can give a person a fish, they'll eat for a day, or you can teach a person how to fish and they'll eat for a lifetime. So this class is about teaching you how to fish. There's a lot of ways to do a CMA. There's a very easy way to do a CMA. You can literally go into Paragon, you can effectively press a button, and poof, there's your CMA. It's pretty much really brainless. It's very, very easy. The problem with that is that it's so easy that it is what most agents do. And you don't want to be like most agents. You want to differentiate yourself, right? So if you go into a listing presentation and you're competing against two other agents, it would be great if they both bring the same, generic stuff that they printed out of the Paragon CMA. And then you roll in with your Atova CMA and you go bam, and it's more substantive. There's more content there. It looks more impressive. The information is more thorough. Your interpretation of that data and your explanation of that data in evaluating their home is more it's more clear and it's more well thought out. And it's just a winning situation for you, right? So it does require that you learn more than an agent that just presses the Paragon button, but it's worth it. It's going to set you apart from your competition, and it's going to help you earn income. So look at this as the process of learning and mastering the CMA is all about equipping yourself to earn a nice income. Equipping yourself to become successful in this business. So, with that being said, let's take you guys through what all these resources are here. So we have the CMA instructions, which we just looked at. We have a cover template, which is the cover template for your CMA. I do not what I don't do is I don't do the Photoshop training in this class. So come to the Photoshop class and I'll teach you how to do some image adjustment. So we'll do some contrast stuff, we'll do some color balance stuff, and we'll do some cropping and some resolution changes and adding the border, and then you'll have your image for your CMA. So Photoshop class for this piece. Other than that, the cover is as simple as changing the address, putting the client's name there, sorry, putting your name there, putting the client's name there, and then putting your contact information there. That's it. Then you print that out, and you have yourself the, goodness gracious, there we go, and you have yourself the cover for your CMA. Market summary spreadsheet. This is the document where we will be spending most of our time today. So what you have here is a few sections. You have the subject property, you have current listings, you have recent sales, and you have pending sales. So we'll be populating this, and then and I'll break that document down more in a minute. We have the CMA search sequence, which I don't want to show you yet. I want to talk about it before we look at it. Then we have the marketing and service commitment. This is the document that goes at the back of your CMA. It talks about all the things that you're going to do for the seller to market their home and get the home sold. So as soon as this finishes downloading here, we'll open it up, and it just has all the stuff that you're going to do to market the home. So you print that out. Oh, the one thing that you do need to know is that the very last page says client name, and then you have your signature line. So what you don't want to do is do what I almost did, which is forget about this page and put it into your CMA and send it off to your client or to your prospect. Because if you do, it looks great and they're loving what you did, and they get to this letter and it says client name and your signature line here. That's really bad, right? You look ridiculous, and you really compromise all your hard work, honestly. So never ever forget to edit the last page. What a lot of agents will do is they'll, instead of downloading the marketing and service commitment from here every time, what they'll do is they will save it, and they'll make the change, especially to here. They'll make this change, they'll leave this the same, and then they'll save it on their desktop. And then they can open it from their desktop. They know, because they're getting it from a separate location, it kind of serves as the reminder that, oh yeah, I got to make that change, right? So they'll open it up, their signature line will already be there. All they'll have to do is change the client name and print it out, and you're good to go. So that is the marketing and service commitment, and currently no pending listings. I'll talk about that as we go through the process. So those are your resources. The CMA search sequence. So the CMA search sequence is your methodology. So the first piece of this is that you are going to be doing a lot of CMAs. So if you're following the path that I lay out for you, you're going to be doing a lot of CMAs. So a typical real estate agent out in the world is going to do, 15, 20, 25 CMAs a year. They're doing CMAs on a reactive basis, meaning, oh, I've got a listing presentation, I need to do a CMA. Oh, this buyer wants to know if this home is worth it, I need to do a CMA, which in that instance we call a buyer's value analysis. So most agents doing CMAs on a reactive basis. You're going to be doing CMAs on a proactive basis. You're going to be doing CMAs as actual marketing. So you'll be using them in your subdivision farming. You'll be using them all over the place. So really, the CMA is a tool that gets people to want to work with you. That's what it is. A CMA, your CMA, is going to be a tool that gets people to want to work with you. Therefore, you want to put that in as many people's hands as possible, because the more CMAs you put in people's hands, and I'll show you all the different ways that you can do that, the more people are going to be out there that are going to want to work with you. They've gotten lots of stuff from lots of different agents throughout the years, but this report that they got from you with their home on the front, and it's all about their property, is going to be a huge earner for you. So, because you're going to be doing large volumes of CMAs, it's really important that you have a way to do them quickly. And you can't do them quickly at the cost um, of accuracy. You need to be able to do them very accurately, but also very quickly. And the only way to accomplish that, pretty much with any type of task, is to have some type of methodology that you use that you repeat every time to do the work. In this case, to gather data. So the methodology that you use also ties into the the wording that you use with the sellers. It's really it's incredibly powerful. So it's like a um, I guess the best way to explain it to you is just to give you the wording. So um, I'll give you an example. Um, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, to arrive at to find the information and arrive at the information that this report provides, I engaged in a very specific process to find the data, and that process is objective. So your home here in Northwest Meridian is 3,000 square feet, 10 years old, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, and is on a regular city-sized lot. So what I did is I went into Paragon. That's the tool that we use to search the MLS. And I looked for homes that had sold in the past 3 months that were exactly 4 bedrooms, exactly 3 bathrooms, 2,900 to 3,100 square feet, in Northeast Meridian, 2 story on a regular size lot. And when I did that, in the past 3 months, there was only one sale. And so then what I did is I engaged in a process of incrementally loosening the criteria until the closest 7 to 10 comparable sales were revealed. So the first thing I did is I went from 2,900 to 3,100 square feet. I loosened that to 2,800 to 3,200 square feet. And when I did that, there were two. But my target was 7 to 10. So then what I did is I went back 4 months in time. That revealed a total of four. Then I loosened the bathrooms to 2.5 to 3. When I did that, there was seven. And those seven are the seven comparable recent sales that I've included in the report. Nothing has been selectively added and nothing has been selectively removed. The entire process is objective, therefore, the results are objective. Um, so, doing this, having this conversation with them, does two things for you. The first thing that it does is it helps them understand how you arrived at the data. And when they understand that, they're going to trust your result so much more. They are. They're going to trust the result. If you explain to them how you arrived at your conclusions, how did I get my data? We're going to do more about the math that you did later. But if you explain how you got your information and how you drew the conclusions from the information, if you educate them on that, then they're going to trust the result much more, obviously, than if you just say, well, here's the data and it shows this, right? So it's a really important part of your job in listing presentations, and pretty much anytime you have an opportunity to do so, you need to educate people on the methodology that you used to arrive at the data and then explain the math to them that results in the conclusions. If you do that, they're going to trust the results more. They're going to trust your information, and they're going to trust you. They're going to value you because you're like the other agent. They kind of just told us it's worth this, and here's some data. But this other agent took the time to explain to us what they did, and then they explained to us how the math works, and they really took the time to. We can tell they did it right, and they took the time to explain it to us. Um, the second thing that doing that does for you, saying that to the seller, accomplishes for you also. It gives you a defense mechanism. So one of the main reasons you will lose listings. There's two reasons you lose listings. Pretty much, there's only two reasons you're going to lose listings, and I'm going to give you the defense against one of them right now. You lose a listing because of nepotism. You were great. We really wanted to list with you, but we felt if we didn't list with my wife's friend from work, that it would just really compromise the relationship. So we had to go with her. That type of stuff. That's hard to beat. It's hard to beat. That's relationship stuff, and you're gonna lose deals to nepotism no matter how amazing you are, because their relationship, friendship, is they value that even more, right? Um, that really falls into the category of, well, why did you even bother interviewing me to begin with? But you don't get mad. You just smile and you say, hey, no problem. If it doesn't work out for any reason, I'd still love to work with you. Give me a call. What you're hoping for is the other agent fails and you get the expired listing. So the other thing that saying this to sellers does is that it defends you against the second reason that you'll lose listings, which is the other agent told me they could get me more for my house. So we really liked you. We thought that you could do a great job for us, but you told us 375, and this other agent told us he could get 4. And so, we got to go with the other guy. It's ridiculous. Um, and you totally defend against it if you say this. So you say that whole thing that we said to the seller a moment ago, and then you're also going to say, um, and if you have any other agents that you're interviewing that come in and wave the flag of I can get you more money. If you have any agents that are using I can get you more money as a tool to try and get your listing, be very cautious of that. Um, Mainly because the process that I used to estimate the value is objective, um, as I showed you. The other agent waving the flag of I can get you 400,000. If he's showing you data that supports that, that data has likely been arrived at subjectively, purposefully. I mean, there's a saying. It's like in a Mark Twain book, I think. Huck Finn. It's lies, damn lies, and statistics. And the reason that statement was written is that data can be, you can manipulate statistics in a way that oftentimes can paint any picture that you want it to paint. So if I wanted to show you that your home was worth 400,000, I could go into the MLS and handpick just the highest comparable sales and say, "Hey, I can get you 400,000." The problem with that is that, and the problem that I expect you'll see with the other agent, is that if you do give him the listing, you're probably going to be getting that call 2 weeks later that says, hey, we haven't had a lot of showings. We should be thinking about a price change. And it really amounts to a bait and switch. They get you on the hook with the promise of getting you a lot of money. Then once you've signed all the paperwork, the conversation immediately changes to, hey, we should be thinking about a price reduction. I'm giving it to you straight from the outset. And who do you really want to work with, right? Maybe we could push the boundaries up a little bit. We talk about in the supply and demand analysis class, we'll talk about the inverse relationship between time and money. And when you can have that conversation with the seller, you can help them forecast, not forecast, but at least understand the dynamics between price and time on market. And that's very valuable too. So that's a separate conversation, separate class, and it's coming up later. Um, Okay, so you have that conversation with the seller. It enables them to trust your results more, and you're leveraging it to protect yourself against the agents that are trying to steal the listing out from under you by making false promises of being able to get them more money. So, with that being said, let's now look at the CMA search sequence so that you can get a feel for um, what we're actually talking about here. So, what we've got is these rounds: round one, round two, round three, round four. You can really ignore the rounds. They are just here for organizational purposes. What you really want to focus on is the sequence. So we're starting with round one. We're going to set everything up. We're going to establish our initial narrow comparable criteria. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I started with an initial narrow comparable criteria set. I then engaged in a process of incrementally loosening the criteria until the closest 7 to 10 comparable sales were revealed. That's the dialogue, right? I can't tell you how many times I would say that in listing presentations. It was just like clockwork. And so what you do is, well, let me show you the rest of this stuff. So 7 to 10 solds, solds, pendings, then actives. That's the sequence in which you're going to be looking for and gathering your data in Atova CRM. Sorry, in the CMA. So when you're doing your CMA, the first thing you're going to look for is 7 to 10 solds. The second thing you're going to look for is X pendings. What does X mean? Okay, so we know that when we're searching for our solds, that we're starting with a narrow criteria and we're incrementally loosening the criteria until we get to 7 to 10. Whatever that criteria is, whatever criteria you end up with there to get to 7 to 10, you're then going to, in Paragon, simply change the status from sold, and we're going to do this, so don't worry about it. We're going to change the status from sold to pendings, leaving all the other criteria the same. And what that does is it says that given this criteria, there's these solds, and given the same criteria, there's these pendings. That's important, and that's why we have an X here, because sometimes the criteria that you used to get 8 solds will reveal 0 pendings, or sometimes 2, or maybe 6. I mean, you never know. It doesn't matter. Even if it's 0 or 1 or 10, it doesn't matter. But even if it's 0, it's still valuable data, because what it does is it helps you and the seller, it helps you envision the direction of the market. So if using this criteria, there's 7 homes that have sold in the past 3 months, and there's currently 7 in escrow, that's a pretty accelerating market. You know, it took 3 months to sell 7 before. We have 7 in escrow right now. That market is really hot. You know, it's accelerating. Or there's 7 that have sold in the past 3 months, and there's 1 in escrow right now. Maybe, or 0. That might illustrate a softening market, right? So it's just general direction of the market, and that's what you get when you keep the criteria the same. So if you were to if you were to establish some criteria for your solds, and then use some other criteria to arrive at some arbitrary amount of pendings, then because the data is different, you're no longer able to visualize trend, right? But because you're going from this data has this many solds and the same data has this many pendings, you're able to visualize market direction, able to visualize market trend. And so it doesn't matter if there's 0 or 1 or 7. It doesn't matter. However many there are, that's what you put in the report. And even if there's 0, that is still telling an important story. So the criteria stays the same. After that, you're looking for 10 to 15 actives. With the actives, we're looking for price range, and geography as opposed to all this criteria. We'll talk about that again in a minute. For now, let us actually now do a CMA. So, hooray! We've gotten far enough into this thing. Covered like we have the intro and then the second intro, and then we actually get to do the CMA. So we've walked through all the stuff to the point where we can actually start doing one now. As I do this, I could do this whole thing, the whole rest of this class, I could do in about 5 minutes. If I stopped talking and just did the steps, 5 minutes. Which is going to blow your minds because the amount of stuff that we're about to do is going to seem like it should take a half an hour, and like for you to do it even after you've mastered it, but it's not true. What I'm about to show you will take you 5 minutes once you've mastered it. Just doesn't feel like that right now, but just realize that it's true. So let's go back to the Resources tab. Top center column is Comparative Market Analysis. We have a document in here called Market Summary Spreadsheet, which I opened before, and that is this document right here. This document here has tabs at the bottom. So you have the residential tab that we're on now. You have the land tab that you would use if you're going to do a CMA on land. You have a residential income tab that you'll use if you're going to do a CMA on a residential income property. By the way, you can use that document to do a CMA on income property, but it's wiser if you do the pro forma letter of intent. I actually did a class, or not a class, but I did that for somebody just a while ago, and just check the dashboard. It was, I think, on Tuesday. Pro forma financial analysis. In fact, I guess I will open it here really quick. So pro forma financial analysis is this document. So it includes information on the price you're going to pay, the rental income, expenses, and then it gets down and it gets into rates of return and all kinds of cool stuff. So this is a pro forma financial analysis. So instead of using this residential income, you should use that. This is okay as a secondary analysis, but your primary analysis for investment property, income property, should be that pro forma, because this is done on a price per square foot basis, where the pro forma is done on a income basis. All right, and lastly down here we have the data worksheet. The data worksheet is a staging area. It's a staging area. We're going to be putting information here, doing some stuff with it, and then moving it over to its final location. So the data worksheet is our staging area. So getting back to, my phone's kind of in the way, and there we go. All right, getting back to residential. So the residential worksheet down here, and then the data worksheet down here. Those are the documents that we will be using. Or not the documents, but these are worksheets. So there's two worksheets within a document. So the next thing that we need to do, I keep blocking stuff that I need. The next thing that we need to do is find a property to do a CMA on. So let's pretend that yesterday you got a call off of some information that you sent out. You got a call from somebody that is It's going to open up Paragon here. They said, hey, we're thinking about putting our home on the market, and we were wondering if you would come out and take a look at the house and let us know what you think, and maybe get it listed for us. And so you say, hey, yeah, sure, that would be great. Would love to do that. And how about tomorrow at 3 o'clock? That work for you? Okay, sounds good. I'll see you tomorrow at 3. Cool. So you're doing a CMA. Now, obviously, if they just called you, they had to give you the address, tell you where to go. And so we now know the address of the property. I just logged in. Okay. Strange. So we're going to do a tax, Ada County. So I just logged into Paragon. I'm going to tax, Ada County. And I know that I'm doing a CMA on the property. It's 2659 is the street name or the street number. So I put that in the minimum and the maximum. And then I'm just going to put here in the street name, I'm just going to put the letter S. And in the entirety of the MLS, in the entirety of the Ada County, because I went to tax Ada County, in the entirety of the Ada County database, there's only 5 properties that start with S. Now, I could put in the whole property here. We're going to do, by the way, we're doing a CMA on my house. I always do the CMA on my house because it almost always creates a problem, and then I can use that to show you how to solve the problem. So I could put in 2659 to 2659 Salisbury, and then there's my house right there. But for you guys, what if you spell Salisbury wrong, right? And then it's like you struggle to find it. So if you just put in S or SAL, so SAL even here got me 1, and that's going to be it. But let's just say I just did S. I can just do S. There's only 5. I hit search. Then I can come in here, double click on them, and then just click through until I find, oh, there I am, I'm the second one. So, okay, there it is, Salisbury. So when you're making a database search of the tax records, less is more. Just put the street first initial or first 2 letters or something, and then look through the results to find the one that you want. Just believe me, it'll save you some grief. I've spent an hour and a half like struggling to find a property only to realize that I had inverted 2 letters or something. And if I would have used this trick, if I had adopted this trick and was using it all the time, I would have found it in 5 seconds. So here's the tax record for the property. So what we have is the owners, we have the property address, we have the zip, we have the bedroom and bathroom count, we have the square footage, we have the levels, we have the year that it was built, and we have the acreage. Acres, year built, 2-story, square footage, address, bedrooms and baths. So right there in the top section we have all this information. And really that's all the information that we need to get started. So we would take note of this and then go back to our market summary spreadsheet here, and we'll populate the subject property field. So we'll do 2659 East Salisbury, goodness, B-U-R-Y, Court. It's 5 beds, 3 baths, 31 square feet, 0.30, built in 1999. So from the tax record, we get the information that we need to populate that section. We also now have the information that we need to begin to do what we're doing here. Oh gosh, I blocked it again. Brutal. I'm going to put it over here now. All right, there's my chat. My chat is now against the speaker instead of the computer monitor. And now I can see all my icons down here. So this guy here is our CMA search sequence. So in round one, our initial narrow comparable criteria set, we want exact number of bedrooms. So in this case, it's going to be 5 minimum to 5 maximum. We want exact baths, which in this case is going to be 3 min to 3 max. We want plus or minus 100 square feet or as appropriate. So for this home, 3031 square feet, we're going to do 2931 to 3131. However, if you have a really, really tiny house or a really, really large house, you might want to change your initial range. So if you're dealing with a tiny little house on the bench and it's 720 square feet, maybe your initial range should be plus or minus 50. Conversely, if you're looking at a home in the Eagle foothills and it's 7,000 square feet, maybe you should be starting with a range of plus or minus 500 square feet because 6,900 square feet to 7,100 square feet, you're not going to get any. That's far too narrow of a range. You're not going to get any results, right? So the as appropriate part really only applies at the extremes, really, really small or really, really big. Most of your homes, 12, 1,300 square feet to, 3,000, 3,500 square feet, plus or minus 100 is right where you want to be. If you get into ranges beyond that, you can make those adjustments. Just change it to 50, or maybe change it plus or minus 75, or plus or minus 300. You could make those decisions because you're the real estate professional. Your professional opinion matters. So what makes sense to you? It made logical sense given the size of the home to begin my range with plus or minus 250. When you say that, you're the professional. You can say that. Your opinion matters now. But most of the time, plus or minus 100 square feet. So let's do those things here really quick. Beds, baths, square footage. So we're going to do search, residential, and we know that we're starting, it told us that we're starting with our solds, remember? We're starting with our solds. So we can do status sold. We can do beds, 5 min to 5 max. We can do baths, 3 min to 3 max. And we can do, what was it? Square footage. Square feet, we'll do 2931 to 3131. So then we need to continue on and plug in the rest of this data. So levels, exact. If it's a 2-story home, you're searching for 2-story homes. If it's a single-story home, you're searching for single-story homes. There's no flexibility there. Exact, a match for the levels. Age, appropriate. So what does this mean? Well, the whole range. So if you start with new construction, so the home is brand new. Brand new homes only comp with other brand new homes. So if it's a new construction home that you're doing a CMA on, you can only include other new construction sales. That's it. Not even 1 year old. You can't. No flexibility. New only comps with new. Now, as the age of the home gets older, the range that you'll use gets wider. So where you have 0 for new construction, if the home is, let's say, 3 years old, maybe your range will be 1 to 5 years old. If the home is 10 years old, maybe the range will be 6 to 14 years old, or 7 to 13 years old. If the home is 20 years old, maybe you're looking at 15 to 25. If the home is 40 years old, maybe you're looking at 30 to 50. If the home is 75 years old, maybe you're looking at 60 to 90. or 50 to 100 even. So as the home gets older, the range that you can use gets wider. So for this home, built in 1999, it's what 18, 19 years old. So maybe plus or minus 10 years. So 1989 to 2009. No, 1989 feels a little bit too old. And 2009 maybe feels a little bit too new, but 1989 definitely feels too old. So maybe plus or minus 5 years. That's what, 1994 to 2004? Yeah, that feels more appropriate for this house. Okay? That's the conversation that you need to have with yourself. It's not there is no, oh, it's this old, let me use this range. It doesn't work like that. It's try something on for size, talk through it. Does that make sense? No, let's make this adjustment. Okay, that feels right. Okay, so you're a real estate professional. You need to have that conversation and with yourself and figure out what feels right. And then whatever that number is, that's what you use. So we are going to do levels and age. So levels is right here. We'll just put the number 2 in. It'll give us a little pull down menu, and we'll just check 2-story. Easy enough. And then age, we said, here's year built. We said plus or minus 5, which would be 1994 to 2004. And that still looks right. That looks good to me. That feels correct. And then what do we have next? Let's see here. Age. Next we have MLS. So for the area, we have MLS exact or as appropriate. So if the subject property is in area 100, then you're looking for comps in area 100. If the subject property is in area 900, then you're looking for comps in area 900. How do we know where stuff is located? So let's go to the Resources tab. And then in the Resources tab, we have down here a section in the left column called Market Resources. And here we have a link called MLS Ada County Area Map. And you can just zoom in and get a feel for where the different areas are. So we know that this home is, here's Highway 55, here's State Street. So, yep, this property's right there, so it's an Eagle. Or, you just get a feel for, here's Eagle Road and the freeway, I-84, right? So, okay, I know it's left of Eagle Road, it's right of Meridian, and it's north of the freeway. Therefore, it's an area 1020, etc. So that's how you know what area a property is located. And then you begin by plugging in that same area map. So you will knowing that this property, that's what I wanted to do. I was going to here. So, where was I going? So I showed you how to get the area, and then I wanted to get these 2 things, is what it is. So we're doing levels. No, we already did levels, I think. We have levels, age, and area next. Levels, age, and area. So we did do levels. Age we did. And then area, we know it's 900. So we plug in 900 and we choose Eagle. And then let's see what else we've got. So we're all the way up to area, but I did not cover or as appropriate yet. So most of the time, using the exact area is perfect. If the subject property is in area 900, then you're searching in area 900 and everything's happy. Sometimes, though, you run into weird, funky scenarios. So I'll give you an example here. Let's say this is Eagle Road. Let's say this is Chinden, and this is Fairview. On the corner of Chinden and Eagle is a subdivision is a Staples, and then behind the Staples is a subdivision called Bristol Heights. So Eagle Road Eagle Road, up and down there, and then Chinden, and so Staples and Bristol Heights at the southwest corner there. All the way up here at Eagle Road and Fairview, there is a Texas Roadhouse, and then behind the Texas Roadhouse there is a Walmart, and that's a good, between the Eagle Road and Texas Roadhouse, it's a good half mile, I would say. So the interesting thing here, and the reason that I'm drawing this diagram, is that most people feel that on this side of Eagle Road is Boise, and on this side of Eagle Road is Meridian. And that is not the case. The reality is that the boundary goes something like this, because Bristol Heights here is in Boise, and Texas Roadhouse and Walgreens all the way over there, a half a mile east of Eagle, they're in Meridian. So in this instance, a home in Bristol Heights might be in this area, but it might comp better with other new homes in Northeast Meridian. And so when there's anomalous situations like that, you can use an adjacent MLS area. So it might be, I'm not going to use area whatever. Instead, I should really use area whatever, because it's technically it's in this area, but it comps better with the similar homes in this area. That's the bottom line there. The problem is there's no way for me to tell you where all those nuances are around town. And the good news is that you don't need to know, because what will happen is you're going to be trying to do a CMA, and you're going to go through all this sequence, and you're not going to come up with any results. And when that happens, you're going to call me. You're going to say, "Hey, Steve, I'm doing the CMA, and I'm not getting any results." And I'll say, "Well, where is it?" And you'll say, "Bristol Heights." And I'll say, "Oh, okay. Don't put this area. Put this area instead and see what happens." And you're like, "Oh, okay, that fixed it." And like, cool. So you'll run into a roadblock that will cause you to make an inquiry, and then the results of your inquiry will result in you learning about these market nuances over time. Okay, so that was MLS area, and next we have 3 months of history. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to, it's up here somewhere, I think, isn't it? Closing date, year bad, closing date. I just said it. All right, closing date. You're just going to click on the begin date. So click on the little calendar guy. Up here is the month. You can go back 3 months. 1, 2, 3. I clicked 3 times. Now I'm going to click on today's date 3 months ago. And that is going to show me, I don't need to worry about an end date, because there's no closings that are going to show up in the future, right? It's all the stuff, all the closings through this begin date, obviously through today, because the future hasn't happened yet. So I don't need to put an end date there. And now that I've plugged in all this criteria, you can see that I have 0 results, which is not uncommon. So 0 is less than 7 to 10. Therefore, I need to begin loosening my criteria. So the first thing I'm going to do, number 1, is I'm going to loosen 200 square feet. So I'm going to go to my square footage, and I'm going to go from 2931 down to 2831, and from 3031 to up to 3231. And when I do that, look at that, there's 1 now. Cool. But 1 is still less than 7 to 10. Therefore, I need to move on to my next item, 4 months in time. So I'm going to go down here to the closing date, click on the calendar, go back 1 more month, click on today's date 1 month ago. I still have 1. 1 is less than 7 to 10. Therefore, I need to move on to number 3. Now, number 3 is bathrooms. Bathrooms. We're doing adding or subtracting a half of a bath adding or subtracting a half of a bath, where the rule is you want to stay with the same number of rooms. So what does this mean? This means that if your subject property is 2.5 baths, let's say that your subject property is 3 baths, like ours. Okay, so our subject property is 3 baths. So in round one, we did 3 min to 3 max. In round two, if we decide to add a half a bath, we'll go to 3 min to 3.5 max. If we do that, we've just added a whole room onto that house that didn't exist before, right? So a three bathroom house has 3 rooms in it with a sink and a shower. A 3.5 bath house has 3 baths with a sink and a shower, and then 1 bath that's only a toilet and a sink. So, but we physically have added a whole other room onto that house to accommodate that toilet and that sink. So that's a more significant change than if we went 3 min to 3 max in round one, and then in round two, we went down a half a bath. We go 2.5 to 3. Because whether it's 2.5 bath home or a 3 bath home, both of those homes have 3 rooms in them with a toilet. So it's a smaller increment to make. So we make that increment first. So we're either going to add a half a bath or subtract a half a bath, with the rule being that we need to stay with the same number of rooms. So if the subject property is 3 baths, we're going to go down and use 2.5 to 3. If the subject property is 2.5 baths, we're going to go up, and we're also going to use 2.5 to 3. If the subject property is 4 baths, then we'd go down to 3.5 to 4. If the subject property was 3.5 baths, we'd go up to 3.5 to 5. So you get the point there. So in this particular instance, we're going to go down to 2.5 to 3 because both of these have 3 rooms. We have 2 sales. That is still less than 7 to 10. Therefore, we need to move on to the next item, which is 300 square feet. The one after that is 5 months of time. So let's do 2731 up to 3331. We still only have 2, so let's go on to the next item, which was going back 1 more month. So I click on today's date 5 months ago, and we have 3. Cool, but 3 is less than 7 to 10, so I must move on to, I guess, forgive me, that was 4 months ago. Oh no, we went to 5. I missed square footage. So let me back up here. Forgive me. So I'm going to go back up a month. And then square footage. I didn't miss 27, 28, 29. I did miss square footage. So we're going to go to 2631 to 3431. There's still only 2. Now I'll go back a month in time. And there's 3. That's great. Now we're at number 6. At number 6, we're going to add or subtract a half a bath again. This time we're going to go the opposite direction of what we did in number 3. So last time we subtracted a half a bath. This time we're going to go ahead and go up. When we do that, there's 4. Cool. 4, though, is still less than 7 to 10. So now I must move on to item number 7, which is 400 square feet. So we'll do 2531 to 3531. There's still only 4. So now I have to go to number 8, which is 6 months. We'll click on the calendar, go back to 6 months. There's still only 4. So that takes me to number 9, which is bedrooms, the bedrooms column here. What this says is if you have a 3-bedroom subject property, loosen it to 3 to 4. If you have a 4-bedroom subject property, loosen it to 3 to 4. If you have a 5-bedroom subject property, loosen it to 5 to 4. So in this particular instance, we have a 5-bedroom subject property, so we're going to loosen it to 4. Now, This is where we introduce that problem I told you we were going to have. So we go from 4 here. Watch what happens when we drop this to 4 bedrooms. We jump all the way up to 24. Now this phenomenon happens with this house every year. I've been doing this class for years and years, and this happens every time. And the reason why is that the 5 bedroom count was the gating issue. It was the log jam that was holding everything up. And so as soon as we loosened it to 4 bedrooms, it's like bam, the log jam breaks free and we see everything. So what do? We only want 7 to 10. We don't want 24 in our report. So what do we do when this problem happens? Well, what we do is we start to work in reverse. So we're going to leave this, but we're going to change it to 5 months. Then we're going to go back in the square footage. So closing date, we're going to go up a month. Still more than we need. So we're going to tighten up the square footage, increasing on the low end and decreasing on the high end. Still more than we need. So we did 8, 7, and then we'll go 6, which is the bathrooms. So we'll go back to 3 on the max. That's 12. Still more than 7 to 10, right? So now we're going to go to 5, which is 5 months in time, and then we'll do square footage again. So we go here, another month, 11, still too many. We only want 7 to 10. So we're going to go again, and then 9. Perfect. That does fall in the 7 to 10 range. Now we're ready to export our data, and we did it. And that process is objective. We started narrow, we incrementally loosened. Oh, there's too many. We'll bring it back a little bit. Okay, there we are. There was no decision making there. You loosened, you adjusted, there's your data. So when you have a gating issue like that, when you have a log jam, that's how you solve that problem. It doesn't always work that way. In fact, it most often doesn't work that way. 80-90% of the time, what'll happen is you'll plug in your narrow criteria. You'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and then somewhere in this range, 4, 5, 6, 7, you'll go from 2 to 4 to 8. And then as soon as you've hit 8, you stop. So your job is not to get all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your job is not to get all the way to 11. That is not your job. Your job is to go as far as you need to get to 7 to 10, and then stop. So if changing it from 4 months to 5 months gets you from 6 to 9, you're done. You're not going to move on to 6 or 7 or 8. Okay, so in this instance, we have completed our first identification of properties, and so we now want to get that data into our spreadsheet. So we're going to click the search button, and now that we have the data brought up, we're going to do export to CSV. We make sure that all the MLS listings are specified here. We make sure that we're using the right spreadsheet, default MLS defined spreadsheet. And I guess what I should show you guys right now, because this is usually a breaking point for people. So this is important, very important. If you don't do this, you're not going to be able to do the CMA. So I'm going to go to the instructions again. And in the instructions, I don't cover the Photoshop part, and I don't cover a few segments because they're in here. It's like getting your resources, configuring Paragon. That is something that that we need to work on right now. That I'm going to show you guys. So, or at least talk about. So I'm not going to actually do this, but just realize that this configure Paragon, it goes from here to here. So there we go. So this stuff here, you have to do that. And you'll see right here, it says select default MLS defined spreadsheet. So you're going to be opening up your MLS defined spreadsheet, your default MLS defined spreadsheet, you're going to be putting things in a certain order, and then you're going to be saving it. Later, when you get to Paragon, because you've done that step, I'm going to go back here. So, reports, details, MLS full detail. So, or I could do the search. Let's go back to the search. So we're stepping back here. So we just loosened the criteria. We brought things back a little bit. Cool. Now that we've got our 7 to 10 up here, we're going to click search. That brings it up the data. Then we do export to CSV. And here you see that item again, default MLS defined spreadsheet. You want to make sure that that matches what you edited. So if you follow that process that I showed you a moment ago, and you make sure that you applied that process to this option, just make sure that what you saved was called default MLS defined spreadsheet, and make sure that this says default MLS defined spreadsheet. If you do that, then you're golden. So we can now just click export. I'm going to go back though. I want to do it again. So we're going to do search. We just loosened our criteria, came back a little bit. We have our 7 to 10. So I'm going to click search. It brings up my spreadsheet. I just click on export to CSV, make sure this says the right thing, and click export. When I do that, Paragon is going to create for me a spreadsheet that is that data. So it's exported that data for me, is what Paragon has done. So I'm going to copy this data. I can put my cursor here. So my cursor is on the 1 up here. You can see, it might be hard to see, but right now it's a black cursor. If I put my cursor between the two cells, it changes to this like plus sign with arrows cursor. So a black cursor pointing to the right, and like this plus sign with arrows up and down cursor. So if I'm on this cursor, the black arrow pointing to the right, I can click, hold, and drag, and it will highlight all of the rows. If I'm on this other cursor and I click, hold, and drag, that's just changing the row height of that one row. So, and what I want to do is be on the black cursor pointing to the right, click, hold, and drag to highlight all of the rows. Now that all the rows are highlighted, I can hit Control C on my keyboard to copy. Now that the data is copied, I can go back to my market summary here, and I can go to my staging area, the data worksheet down here at the bottom left. I can click on data worksheet, the big blank page. Right here at the top, I'm just going to click my cursor there and do Control V to paste. So I have exported the data from Paragon to this file, and then copied the data from this file over to the staging area. Now that I've done that, I can close this old file, or the one that Paragon exported for me. I don't need it anymore, so I can get rid of it. And so now that I have my data copied over to my staging area, I want to double click on my listing, and I want to print these out because these are going to go in my CMA. So your process is mess with the criteria until you get the number that you need. Export the data to Excel, copy it over to your staging area. Come back into Paragon, and then print out the listings. So you want to, in your CMA, you're going to have the spreadsheet, but you're also going to have a full printout of all of the listings. And that way, if you or the seller see a comparable that, this one sold for, $200 a square foot. Why did it sell for so much? Well, let's turn back and look at this listing, and you can look through it and see, oh, they added the pool and they remodeled and they changed all the fixtures to solid gold, whatever, right? So so you're going to print out all the listings. When you print out the listings, you're going to go print plus. Make sure here it says all listings, because by default, you can see it just defaulted to just the one I was looking at, not all of them. So I want to change it to all of them. And then I want to never print full detail. Full detail has this warning on it. Confidential. This view may only be distributed to IMLS members. Any violation subject to a $500 fine. Don't want to put full detail listing in the hands of a consumer ever. Otherwise, not only are you going to risk a $500 fine, but more importantly, you're risking a lot more, because the agent remarks right here oftentimes says stuff like, sellers are in Europe for 2 weeks. Feel free to show the home anytime. The garage code is 5674. That's not information that you want to have in the public's hands. There's also the seller's contact information, and it's just not good. Right here is where it usually is. This is a tenant-occupied property, but you get the point. So we want to print these all out. So it's print plus. We don't want full detail. So I'm going to double-click that to get it out of here. It goes back over to the left column. And then in the left column, I want to find MLS client detail. MLS client detail. Right there. Boom. Double click on that. It goes over here. Now that is the version that is going to print. MLS client detail. That's what you want. So I've got all listings, MLS client detail, print. It prints out all the listings. Now you have them ready to go into your CMA. Now that that is done, and only now that that is done, are you prepared to go to the next step, which is your pendings. Pendings. I want X of them. What does that mean again? Well, it means I'm going to click up here to go back to my search. It means I'm simply going to remove the status of sold, and instead I'm going to put the status of pending. And however many there are is how many I'm going to use. So in this case, there's 1. So I'm going to click search. Just like before, I'm going to do export to CSV, make sure my spreadsheet says the right thing, and click export. Paragon creates a new file for me. I'm going to click, hold, and drag to highlight the rows, Control C to copy, back to my market summary spreadsheet. I'm already in the staging area, so I'm just going to skip a row and do Control V, and then now I have my pending data there. Excellent. Going back to Paragon, double click on the listing to see the listing, print plus, all listings, full detail, that's not good. I want MLS client detail. Excellent. Then I hit print. Now I have that listing. Next thing I can do is, because I've exported my pending, copied it to the staging area, printed out the listings. Now I can move on to my 10 to 15 actives. It's 12:34. We probably have about 10, 15 minutes. So hang in there with me. The last 10, 15 minutes is pretty, there's a lot of stuff happening. So make sure that you refocus and really, really pay attention for the next 15 minutes. It'll help a lot. So with the actives, we're looking for price range and geography. So what does that mean? It means that, let's pretend that there's a home down the street and around the corner from this subject property. And let's say that it's single story, built in 1972, and it's on, a half an acre. So it's like an old ranch property. If that home, that ranch property, had sold a month ago, there's no way in a million years it would show up in our comparable recent sales because the criteria is just too different. It's outside of the loosened criteria, right? So, but if that single level rancher built in 1972 on a half an acre was on the market right now, and it just so happens to be on the market at a similar price point to us, then that home may certainly represent our competition. You could see a husband and a wife, driving down the street saying, "Well, I really like that newer one," and then the other one says, "Yeah, but I really like single level on that older house, and that land was really nice too." Yeah, you're right. I don't know, right? So if it's a similar price point in your same part of town, it is considered to represent your competition. So while that home would never show up in the comparable recent sales, it very well may be appropriate for it to show up in the actives as your competition. Because that is what these sections are for. The solds exist in the CMA to help us estimate value. If you have an appraiser appraise the value of your home, or if you have the county assessor, when they come out to assess the value of your home, they're all using comparable recent sales to estimate value. And that's what we use. Pendings are only in there as an indication of the direction of the market. Pendings do not establish value. We don't know the sale price until the home has closed. So the we don't know the sale price till the home is closed. And then the actives, there's nothing that prevents a seller with a home that's worth 300 grand from putting it on the market for 2.5 million. There's right. So what somebody's asking for a thing in no way establishes value. What things are selling for establishes value. So actives are in the CMA not for value and really not for market direction. They're there solely for a representation of our competition. Who are we competing against? That's why actives are there. So solds are there for estimating value. Pendings are there for forecasting market direction or estimating market direction, and actives are there to identify our competition. That's it. Each section has a specific purpose. So with actives, we're less concerned about specific comparable criteria, and we're more concerned about who's in our area priced similarly to us, right? Who's our competition nearby at the same price point? So, with that being said, we're going to go back into the search here. We're going to get rid of, I can, really quick here, if I wanted to get rid of all this criteria, I could manually delete this and then manually delete that, and that works. Alternately, I can do that over here. So as you add criteria here, it shows up in the summary over here. So I can now, to get rid of stuff, I want to get rid of the baths, I can click the X. Get rid of the square footage, click the X, etc. I'm going to get rid of everything except area. That's my geography. My status, I want to change to active. So I have my area. This listing type MLS listing, you want to always leave that there. That never changes. I'm not even sure why they even put it there. Well, I do know why, but yeah, you want to leave that there all the time. So leave that one there all the time. Your area, that's your geography, we want to leave that. Bedrooms, we don't need that. We want active. So we're looking for active properties in the same area, in the same price range. So we have active, we have area, but we don't know the price range. Fortunately for us, we just so happen to have the data that we need to figure out what that price range is. So we're going to go here to, I guess I'll show you a couple things here. So first thing is, anytime you see these hashtags, it just means there's not enough width in the column to show the information. So if I put my cursor like this is now a plus sign with arrows going left and right. If I put my cursor between the columns there, I can click, hold, and drag to widen that column, and now I can see the data. And I can repeat that over and over again for all the stuff. I can't see the subdivision here. That's cut off. Let me widen that. Oh, that's too wide. Let me bring it back. So I could do all of that to make sure I can see everything. Alternately, there's a couple easier approaches. So this is back to the way it was. Instead of dragging, I can just double click. If I double click there, so I put my cursor between the two columns up here, and I double click. If I double click, it will make the column exactly the right size. So that prevents me from having to make it bigger. Oh, that's too big. Let me bring it back. So that's one trick, is double clicking. Another trick is to simply click here. This is between the rows, sorry, the columns and the rows, all the way here at the upper left. I'm going to click here. When I click there, it highlights everything, all the rows, all the columns. Again, it's right up here. Just single click, boom, it highlights everything. Now that everything is highlighted, I could single click between any of these rows. I'll just pick this one, for example. I can single click here, so excuse me, double click here, and what it does is it auto sizes all of the columns to the perfect width at the same time. So again, it's simply click here to highlight everything, double click between any two rows to make them the correct width. Now that I've done that, it's a little bit easier to see everything. So I'm going to scroll over here to my sold price per square foot. I know that the estimated mid-market value of my subject property is the average sold price per square foot times the subject property's square footage. So the average sold price per square foot of the comparable recent sales times the subject property's square footage gives you the estimated mid-market value of the property. The high value market value of the property is represented by the high-end sale. So I could multiply 208.30 times 3031 square feet in this instance, and that would be the high value of the property. And I could do $130 a square foot times 3031 square feet to give me the low market value of the property. That's a pretty big range right there, which is why, honestly, we're running average. You know, if you look here, you're going to find that, you know, well, let's look at what the average is. So to calculate the average of these numbers, we can put our cursor anywhere. I'm going to put my cursor anywhere, any blank cell I want. It does not matter where I put it. I'm going to put it here. So here, in this blank cell, I'm going to type an equation. The equation is equal average open paren. So I click on, I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to put it here. Equals average open paren. So I type in that equation. Then I click, hold, and drag to highlight the things that I want to average. Then I press return or enter on the keyboard. And when I do that, just like magic, it gives me the average sold price per square foot of the comparable recent sales. Let's do that one more time. I put my cursor in any blank cell. I type in equals average open paren, making sure not to typo. That will not work. Equals average open paren. Once I've typed that in, I click, hold, and drag to highlight the things that I want to average. Then I press enter. And that's the average price per square foot of the sold properties. I know that my subject property, I'll click down here, I'll click on residential. Okay, yep, it is 3031. So I'll go back to my data worksheet and I'll type in 3031. And so now that I have these two numbers sitting next to each other, I can multiply them together. I could put this number over here if I wanted, 3031. And then some other random place, let's do it here. I can now work my next equation. I want this cell to equal this cell. I click on it, divided by, that's the slash on the question mark key, right there, the slash. And then I click on this cell, and then I press enter. Oh, I'm doing the wrong math. So it's multiply here, sorry. So it's, I want this cell to equal that cell times. This is the star on the 8 key, right there, times the square footage, enter. So let's do that one more time. I want this cell, so I click on any blank cell, to equal, I press the equal sign. This cell, I click on the price per square foot, times, I do shift 8, this cell, the square footage, and then I press enter. There's my value. So I want this cell to equal that cell times that cell, enter. I want this cell to equal that cell times that cell, enter. I messed it up somehow. Equals that cell times that cell, enter. So the estimated mid-market value of this property is $487,495. So we'll round that up to like $490. Let's do all this again really quick. I want this cell to equal the average of these guys. I know my subject property is 3031 square feet, so I'll just type that in here. And I want here to know what the factor of these things is. So equal that times that, enter. Okay, my subject property is worth about $490. Now that I know that, I can come into here and I can plug in a price range that makes sense. So let's see, $490. So maybe like $475 to $500. Well, that only gave me 6. And I need to have, I need to have 10 to 15 of them. So let me try maybe 470 to 510, or 460 to 520. Okay, that works. Now, if you ever get to the point where you do this, and let's say that you put in a range, oftentimes I'll do this. We'll do 475 to like 525. Right there, I hit the range. A lot of times, what you're going to do is when you plug in a logical price range, when you do that, you're going to find that you've got like 26, more than the 10 to 15 that you need. When that happens, your job is to subjectively go through those 30 listings and extract the ones that you feel represent the subject property's strongest competition. This isn't about estimating value. That's an objective process entirely. This who's our strongest competition is a subjective thing. It comes down to how nice is the home, there's a lot of criteria there. So let's pretend this said 30. I would hit search, and then I would double click on one of these to look at the full listing, and then I would look at it. Is it cute? How's it priced? Well, it's $186. We saw a moment ago that our average price was $160. So at $186, it's priced a little bit higher, but that really is a cute home, and so I'm gonna include this one. And then you move on to the next one. That's also an attractive looking home. It's at $158, even better price than the last one. Yep, I want to include that in our competition. This home is, let's say this home is just really ugly, or it's priced at $200 a square foot, or there's some other objectionable thing that you identify with it that you kind of feel this really doesn't represent our competition. So I would leave that one unchecked. I would continue to move on and check all of the ones that I think are cute are priced right. So here's this one, $239 a square foot. It's to be built. It doesn't even exist yet. So don't really think that represents my competition right now. I'm not going to check it. So you go through all of them, checking them or not checking them. You're trying to check 10 to 15 worth, right? When you're done, over here at the top left, you would click on the Show Checked button. When you click on the Show Checked button, it will filter out all the ones you didn't check and leave you with the ones that you want. When you're done, you do export to CSV. Um, it, I guess I should tell you that if you had clicked checked already, um, this selected listings things wouldn't be here. So you don't need to ever select checked, honestly. You can just check the ones that you want and then export them and make sure that you're checking selected listings here. In this instance, for the purposes of illustration, I want all of them, so I'm going to click export. This creates a new file for me, and I'm going to click, hold, and drag to highlight the data, go back to my market summary spreadsheet. I'm going to skip a row, and I'm going to do Control V. Now, when I do that, it gives me an error. It says, we can't paste because the copy and paste areas aren't the same size. What the heck does that mean? Well, Excel is doing you a favor. It's reminding you that you scrolled over. You scrolled over to look at price per square foot. You're no longer on column A here. So if you were to paste here, you'd be pasting column A into column H and everything would be ruined. So Excel's reminding you of that. So let's go copy again. So we'll copy that data and come back here, and then we'll scroll back over to column A and we'll do Control V. Now we just pasted over this math that we did, but we don't care. We don't need that math anymore. It is okay to paste over it. So we're back in column A, skip one row, Control V, and then here is my my active data. Excellent. I'm going to go back to Paragon. I'm going to do print plus. I'm going to change this to client detail, and I'm going to print out my listings. So now that I've exported all my data and printed all my listings, I'm now ready to bring my data from the worksheet over to its correct location and run some calculations. At this point in the class, I usually talk about something I already said, which is I usually think people are like, at this point in the class, people are thinking, this is cool, but Steve, there's got to be an easier way. And there is. The easier way is to press that button in Paragon, and then boom, you're going to be just like everybody else. So you really want to look at these as learning this and doing these steps. You want to look at it as it's the price you pay to have a much more awesome product. And the price you're paying is not as large as you think it is right now. In fact, when we're done, I'm going to give you a verbal accounting of everything that we did, and it's like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then we're done. That's coming up. For right now, let's actually start doing what we need to do. So here we have address, beds, baths. We have all this criteria here. I'm just going to copy it for the sake of showing you guys something. So here I'm going to insert a row, which, by the way, is I click here. If you insert a row, it always inserts the row above the row that you've selected. So if I hold down Alt and I press I for insert and then R for row, I clicked the wrong button. So Alt I R, that inserts a row for me. Then I can I lost it. I'm going to copy this address to days on market. I'm going to paste this here just so you guys can see it. So, and I guess I'll take this font size down. So we can see here that in the middle of all this data, we do have this pick count, MLS number, type, sold, price, area. Then we have the data that we want in the order that we want it. Everything matches up here, mostly. All the way out, and then we have more junk at the end. So we have a bunch of junk at the beginning, a bunch of junk at the end. That's totally okay. We don't need to worry about that at all, because we're only going to be copying out the data from here that matches the row or the column sequence here. So when you're doing, when you're building instructions, really quick here, guys, when you're following this instruction set to configure your default MLS defined spreadsheet. Sorry. When you're so these are the same sequence here. So you see how it starts with picture count, MLS number, type, status, price, area, address. There's a lot of stuff here that isn't in the spreadsheet, but it's stuff that you're going to want to have for the normal course of doing business, right? So you are going to, it's okay for you to have extra stuff at the beginning. It's okay for you to have extra stuff at the end, just so long as you have these things in this sequence somewhere in the middle. There's one error here. So we have a, if you look here, address lines up, beds, baths, square footage, acres, year built, listing date, asking price, closing date, sold price matches up, and then all of a sudden we have asking price per square foot paired up with days on market, and then we have days on market paired up with cumulative days on market. So it's not correct. There's something broken there. And so when you're following the directions, it's going to tell you. It's going to tell you to create a new blank column between these two. There's a very important reason why. I'll explain it in a moment. But you're simply going to put your cursor here, because anytime you create a column, it creates the column before the column that you're on. And you want to create a new column between sold price and days on market here. So we're going to do Alt-I-C for the column. So now we have this new blank column. If I put that row back up here and I copy over just to kind of test here, you guys don't have to do this, but if I, just to show you, what is it? It goes from address, address. So I'll paste it here. I'll bring my font down. So you can see now, address, address, beds, beds, baths, baths, square foot, acres, year built, listing, asking price, closing date, sold price, asking price per square foot is blank, but days on market matches. Cool. So that is what we want. Now that we have the data, now that we added this column, we can now click and hold the first address and then drag down to the bottom days on market. And I don't have to do that like in a clean, perfect, diagonal line. I don't have to do that. I can go here and then down and over and up and go all over the place. It doesn't matter. As long as my cursor ends up on days on market, I'll have highlighted the right area. Once I've done that, I'll do Control-C to copy. Click here on the residential tab again. Go here and I'll paste. Control-V. All right. Cool. Now that I did that, I've created all kinds of problems. Everything is broken. First of all, I've lost my formatting. I had these larger rows, and there was shading, and everything's gotten smaller. The font's small. The shading is gone. Everything's just wrong. So I'm going to undo that. What I really want to do here is I want to right-click in the first empty row. I want to choose Paste Special, and then I want to paste the values, which is this guy right here. So when I click here, Paste Values, you can see it preserves the shading, it preserves the font size. So it is right-click, Paste Special. I clicked on Paste Special, so I can choose Values here. Values. Or it's right-click, Paste Special, Values. Just depends kind of on which version of Excel you're using. But That's still the same. Either no matter what version you're using, you're going to be doing right click, paste special, values. When you do that, it drops in nicely. Oh, goodness, I've made another mistake here. The other mistake is that I have my data worksheet. I did my data. The first thing I did was my solds, and then I did my actives, and then I did my pendings. So I just copied my sold data into my current listings. So remember, it doesn't go top to top, middle to middle, bottom to bottom. It goes, I'm going to undo that. It goes address to days on market. These are my solds. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to right click in my sold section, paste special, values. Then I'm going to go back to my data worksheet. I'm going to copy from address to days on market, Control C to copy. Go down to my pendings, right click, paste special, values. Then I'm going to go back to my data worksheet. I'm going to highlight from address to days on market. These are my actives now. Control C to copy. Scroll back up to current listings, right click, paste special, values. And this is good and correct, these extra blanks, because we don't know it's a current listing. It doesn't have a closing date or a sold price yet. There is an asking price. We're going to calculate that. There is a sold price per square foot. We're going to calculate that too. So we're going to calculate some stuff, and we're going to NA out some stuff. So the reason that we don't export. Oh, I was on the right spreadsheet already. The reason that we don't export, like the reason that we didn't export the sold price per square foot here, because we could. We could have exported the sold price per square foot. The reason that we don't is that because in some instances in this column, this is a sold price per square foot, and then later in the column, it's an asking price per square foot. So it's two different data types, so we have to calculate them as opposing to export them. So I'll show you how we do that right now. So the first thing that I like to do once I have exported my data from my staging area into my worksheet is I like to delete the extra rows that are beneath all the sections. And so to do that, I can, and we're almost done here in 5 minutes, guys. So I can click, hold, and drag to highlight those rows. I can right-click anywhere in the highlighted area and then left-click on delete. That will delete the rows. And then I can repeat that process here. Click, hold, and highlight to highlight them. Right-click anywhere in the highlighted area and then left-click on delete. And then I can repeat that there. I'm going to undo that. I don't want to do that one step at a time. It would be nice if I could do those all at the same time, and you can. So I'm going to click, hold, and highlight to highlight those things, and then I'm going to click, hold, and highlight to also highlight these. But when I did that, when I tried to highlight these as well, those stopped being highlighted. How can I fix that? Well, I'm going to left click, hold, and drag to highlight those. Then I'm going to hold down on the keyboard the control button. So I'm going to hold down control, left click, hold, and drag, release my click, release the control button, scroll down, press the control button again, left click, drag, release my left click, release the control button. Now that I've done that, I have all three of the areas highlighted at the same time. I can then right click on any of them, right click in any of the shaded areas, and then left click on delete, and it deletes them all at once. So we're starting to look like a cooler, more organized document. It feels like we're getting close because we are. So current listings, we don't have a closing date. We don't have a sold price. Those need to be NA. We will be able to calculate the asking price per square foot. Recent sales, yeah, we know the sold price, we know the square footage, so we can calculate that. Pending sales, sold price, we don't know the sold price until it closes. So that will be an NA. And the asking price per square foot, yep, we can calculate that. That's going to be our asking price divided by our square footage. So let's do all these things now. Let's do our NAs first. Now I could type NA and then NA and then NA and then NA. I could type it over and over and over again. Or I could type it once here and then copy it. But I already have an NA sitting right up here. So why don't I just copy that guy? So I'm just going to copy that guy. I'm going to highlight where I want it to go. And I'm going to do Control V to paste. Now when I do that, I've ruined everything. Again, my shading has been compromised. This is like there's like this bolder, thicker border on the bottom. It just looks ugly now. So I'm going to Control Z to undo. I do have my NA copied still. What I meant to do was to highlight everything, right click, paste special, and choose values again. And when I do that, it pastes the value in, but it leaves the formatting the same. But now I have to do that again. I got to do it here. So right click, paste special, values. And there's one more I got to do down here. Right click, paste special, values. Okay, cool. I've got my NAs in there now. No, I'm going to undo all that. What you can do is you can copy your NA. You can draw a box around both of these areas at the same time. Come down here, press the Control key, left click to also highlight that one. Then I can right click in any of the highlighted areas, choose Paste Special and Values, and you'll see that it's put NAs in all of them. Cool. Next thing I need to do is calculate my asking price per square foot. So that is going to be easy. I'm going to use what I've learned before. I want this cell to equal that cell divided by that cell. Enter. That's the sold price per square, or the asking price per square foot of that one. So let's do that again. I want this cell, I click on the cell. To equal, I click on equals. The asking price, I click on the asking price, divided by, I press the slash on the question mark, the square footage. I click on the square footage. I'm done now. I press return. It finishes the calculation for me. I could do that over and over again. I want this cell to equal that cell divided by that cell. I want this cell to equal that cell divided by that cell. Also not a good use of your time. Once you've done the first calculation, you can copy it. You can highlight the places you want it to go, right click, paste special, values. Oops, wrong. Actually, if I paste special values, it just gives me 186 the whole way through. That's not what I wanted. What I want is to right click, in this instance, paste special, and choose formulas. Formulas. Because what Excel does, if I choose formulas, is it copies the formula into the rows beneath it, but it modifies the formula to be relevant to the row that it's in. So really powerful tool there. So I've done it once. I want this cell to equal that cell divided by that cell, enter. I'm going to copy it. I know my asking price per square foot goes here. I also know it needs to go down there. So now that I've highlighted all those, I right click, paste special, choose formulas, and now my asking price per square foot has been calculated everywhere. Don't do that here. This is a different equation. This is your sold price per square foot. It's this column, not this column. It's this column divided by that column now. So I want this cell to equal the sold price divided by the square footage. Enter. Now I can copy that, highlight the places I want it to go, right click, paste special, formulas, and now I have my data there. So I'll zoom out here just a little bit, and this thing is looking beautiful. I have all of my information um, just in a clean looking way. In fact, I can do a file print, and you can see that you can see how clean it looks, right? You've got a spreadsheet that it'll be bound up here inside your CMA, and it just looks clean. Looks like there's some graphics glitches here in the preview, but they don't show up in the print. The print looks legit. And so I'll cancel the print preview, and that's it for the spreadsheet, right? So you've now done everything. So I promised you that I was going to walk you through the stuff that we did and how easy this actually was. Okay, so the first thing we did is we looked at the property in the tax record and we populated the subject property criteria at the top of the worksheet. Now that we had that information, we went into Paragon, we looked for status sold, and we inputted the narrow criteria. We incrementally loosened the criteria until there was 7 to 10. Once we found that amount, we exported them. After we exported them, we copied them to the staging area. Then went back into Paragon and printed out the listings. Then we went and changed our status from sold to pending. However many there were, that's how many we exported. After we exported them, we copied them to our staging area, went back into Paragon, printed out the listings. Then we went into our spreadsheet, we calculated the average sold price per square foot of the comparable recent sales, we multiplied it times the subject property's square footage to get a feel for what the estimated mid-market value of the property was. We then went back into Paragon, switched our status from pending to active, deleted all the other search criteria except for the geography, and we now plugged in our price range, and we hit search. If there was a whole bunch of them, we went through them, we picked out the 10 to 15 that we felt reflect the strongest competition, then we exported that, copied it to the staging area, went back into Paragon, printed out the listings. In the staging area, we added one column. Then we copied our solds to our solds, our pendings to our pendings, and our actives to our actives on this page right here. Then we deleted our extra rows. Then we copied in our NAs. Then we did an asking price per square foot calculation and copied it where it needed to go. Then we did a sold price calculation and copied it where it needed to go. And that's it. That's all we did. And when you have mastered it, it's like a dance. You just like do the CMA and it's done. It really is. It's magical. It's really simple. And the cool part is at the beginning, it's going to take you 4 hours, 5 hours to do a CMA. And the second time it'll take you 3 hours and then 2 hours, etc. The thing is that eventually you're not even going to need to refer to this document anymore because you're going to have done so many CMAs, you just know what the sequence is, right? So you can envision yourself in the future getting the data from the tax record and then putting some data into Paragon, loosening the criteria. Okay, there's my solds. Export them, copy them to the staging area, print out the listings. Switch my status from sold to pending. Export them, copy them to the staging area, print the listings. Calculate my market value of my property, get rid of all the other criteria, leave geography, plug in my price range, look through the actives, find the strongest competition, and export those, copy those to the staging area, print those listings, delete the extra rows, copy in the NAs, run my equations, and now I'm done. That process is a smooth one once you get the hang of it. And so what seems like an unnecessarily complicated, a million steps type of thing is actually going to be very, very simple, yet it's going to be very, very valuable. I can't tell you how many times I've heard personally, and then also have heard from Atova agents that do the Atova CMA, how many times sellers have said, the information that you supplied was so much better than anything that everybody else brought. That's huge, right? You'll notice that on the spreadsheet here, we don't actually give them a value. Um, the value is better done in person. We're supplying data, and we'll talk about that in another class. Um, the last piece, the last piece in this class today is that the CMA is a clear vinyl cover, a cover page, which I showed you at the beginning of this class with the home on it, and the person's name on it, the owner's names on it. Um, then you have a tab um, that says market summary. That tab, by the way, all the supplies I'll be talking about here in a minute are available at all the offices. So you have the clear sheet and the binder and the binding machine, everything, the tabs. So you grab a set of CMA tabs from one of the offices. So you have your clear cover, the cover page, a tab that says market summary, this market summary page. Then you have a lot of agents also like to put behind this market summary page, put a copy of the tax record. Um, the this sheet right here, because it shows the client where you got your data. Sometimes this information is wrong. Like in the bench, it'll say one bath, and in reality there's two. So if you do a CMA and you send it out to somebody and you show it as one bath and they know it's two, they just think you're a moron. But if you include this page and maybe highlight the data points, with a highlighter, they'll be able to see that you got your data from somewhere else, and they won't blame you anymore. And it also gives you a nice reference point later. So your CMA can be clear cover, the cover page, the market summary tab, the market summary, and then a copy of the tax record. Then there's a tab that says current listings, and behind there you put the printout of all the current listings that you printed out. Then there's a tab that says recent sales, and then you put a printout of all the recent sales that you printed out. Then there's a tab that says pending sales. There you put behind there a printout of the pending sales. And then there's a tab that says market summary, and that is where you put this document. Okay, so you then, after this document, making sure that you updated the letter. After this document is a green cardstock backing. It's more like a fiber backing thing. So that's it. The whole thing gets spiral bound, and that is your CMA. So thank you guys for attending. I appreciate it. That is the CMA class. I would encourage you to do a CMA. So your homework from this class is to go do a CMA. You can do it on your own property if you want. You can do it on a friend's property or a family member's property or any property that you can think of. If you don't know a property that you want to do, drop me an email. I'll give you a property to do. Either way, your job over the next week is to learn how to do the CMA. And you're only going to be able to learn how to do it if you're doing it yourself. Now, and doing it once is not good either. You're going to need to do your first CMA and then do one the next day and do one after that and do one after that. And I want these to be CMAs that you're sending out. So when I say doing the CMA for somebody, you could do it for yourself for your own house if you want. Nothing wrong with that. But by and large, every CMA that you're going to be doing from that point forward, and we're going to be sending out. So you'll do it, send it to me. I'll say, yes, it's good, or no, it needs these adjustments. And then we'll refine the CMA. You'll go get a photo, and we're going to send it out. And so you can tell people that you're just practicing or whatever you want. I don't care. But we're going to be sending them out. If you don't know who you want to send them to, let me know. I've got a million ways for you to send out CMAs to people. So drop me an email if you need to know. So yeah, over the next week, try and do 2 or 3 CMAs at a minimum. Very critical. This is like, you want to look at CMAs like breathing or eating. You're going to die if you don't breathe or eat. It's the same thing with CMAs. If you don't master the CMA, your career is going to die. That's really the way that you want to look at it. So, if you're able to use the resources that you have, the instruction set and the video, then wonderful. If you're not, let me know, and I can either do the class for you again, or I can have you sit down with Heather. Heather does a supplemental class where she'll sit down with you and you'll drive, so you'll be at the computer, but she'll be there to kind of give you pointers. So if you need that, that's available for you as well. So for now, that is it. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. And if you have class requests for next week, please email them to me, and I'll be sure to get them scheduled. And other than that, I am available all weekend. So if you have questions on deals or otherwise need assistance, just give me a call. I'm happy to help. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.